the People podcast of the DMV. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about we, and God we trust. Sir Rod and Lady Z, PTP. Every Monday, let's talk about it Wednesday, Friday date night. Welcome, Miss People to People with Rodney Grimes, and my co-host today here is the Miss.
Hold on. It's me.
Oh, that's right.
See, you already started.
I'm
it's
sorry,
too
I'm so
early
sorry.
for this.
Go ahead, girl. Go ahead and take care of it.
Okay, I am the host today. Welcome back to People with Rodney Grimes and with your girl, Demetria Good today. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Kevin Wilson. Mr. Wilson is coming out with a book that is in the process as we speak, The Turning Point. So we will keep you posted on when that book releases. Mr. Wilson is going to tell us a little bit about himself. He has a lot, and it's an honor to have you here to share.
We thank you.
We thank you. Hey, Mr. Wilson.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, here we go. We're excited about what's going on, having Mr. Wilson in the studio. As y'all know how we do, we get in here and make things happen. We are in the process of building a team and dreams and all these things. Mr. Wilson, welcome to the studio of the People to People here in Tyson's Corner, man. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you, brother, for the opportunity.
And you know, as we got Miss Demetrius, y'all already know I call Demetrius Cookie by a nickname. I'm sorry.
You can call me Cookie. We can make it Cookie.
We're gonna make it Cookie.
It's all
but
good.
You know what? So I'm so excited about. We got a gentleman in here, man. You got a story to tell.
Yes, I do.
Well, why don't you start off and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, originally I come from the town of Glenard, which is in Prince George's County, and I was thinking the other day that where I started out is now called 495. And my grandfather's first house was on 5th Street in Glenard. And I remember this construction man coming to the house, wanted to know who's the owner. And he gave my grandfather an envelope. And you know, I'm outside with my dog. I was always an outside person. But I heard the conversation, so gave him an envelope. Next thing I know, my grandfather and 2 other men were building another house on 3rd Street off Glenarm Parkway. So I would watch this. I was observing. And I was just a happy-go-lucky kid, you know, but I've always wanted to be closer to him. So I watched him build our second home. Mm-hmm. And we moved in 1963, and that same year, my grandmother passed. But what I noticed by me being so observant, I was quiet, but I saw everything. And I was wondering why they had her wake in the living room. So people come in the front door and go out the kitchen door. And I said, man, what's going on here? So, you know, as time went on, I saw myself surrounded by women. You know, I didn't know where my father was, but I knew I had a grandfather. So I was basically raised with my grandfather and his 7 girls, which one was my mother. And we all lived in, you know, the first house and the second house. And so as time went on, you know, the routine was you go to school, One of my aunts would pick me up from school. You eat, you do your homework, go back to school. That was the week routine. Then I remember we ate fish on Fridays. That was a religion. And then routine was hot dogs and beans on Saturdays. Every Sunday we went to church. And then in the summertime, that's when we would go to the baseball park. But I would notice something in my grandfather's garage, which was brand new baseballs. And I was so inquisitive. I used to take the baseball and just the smell of a brand new baseball. And I got excited. And then I looked at the bats. Then I looked at the uniforms. And I said, man, I wonder why all this stuff is here. And come to find out, my grandfather was a Negro League Sandlot baseball manager. The team was called the Glenarm Braves. So everywhere he went after church, I couldn't wait to get in his car and go to the games. And it seemed like after every home game, the home field was on 301. It was called Mills Diamond. And after every game, this is true, I was the bat boy. So I was hustling to chase the foul ball so I could get my chicken sandwich and soda after the game. But one thing that struck me was after every game, I noticed I would get in the batter's box. The teams are going in different directions. Spectators going in different directions. I'm going to home plate with an imaginary bat, pretending I'm in a game. Swing, and I would run from home plate back to home plate. But when I get to third base, I would hear this imaginary crowd say, hit the dirt, hit the dirt. And I would slide every time. And every time I slid, I got a whipping. But I came back the next Sunday as if nothing happened the previous Sunday. So that was a routine, man. Then all of a sudden, I can't remember what age, but during the holidays, I would notice the older relatives, everybody bent their elbow. And I'm not talking about drinking a soda. So I'm saying, well, this person drink, that person drink, my mother's drinking. So they downstairs having a good old time. So I'm thinking this is the normal way of life.
Right.
Okay? Then come to find out, one of my uncles was considered a drunk. But he was my favorite uncle because he talked trash and he never encouraged me to drink, and so I was attached to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposed to be the worst of the siblings. So I told my sister one day, I said, hey, look, when they go downstairs, what I want you to do, stand in the hallway, and I'm gonna take a sip of this great Concord Manischewitz wine. But you let me know if somebody come up the steps. So she was my lookout person. What little did I know then that I know now, that was the beginning of my addiction.
Whoa.
But I didn't know it.
Now I just want to jump in because, and I'm sure that being that we as individuals who interview different people, I want to make sure that the audience is following where he's going with this, because this is the beginning of a situation from your childhood. Right? That brought you into your adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, come on, go ahead, finish.
So I'm looking at this brand new shiny bottle of great Concord Manischewitz wine, and I took a sip, and it was okay with my taste buds. And I took another sip, but I can't remember how old I was. And so as time went on, I wasn't affected then. So, the same thing, go to school, go to church, baseball game. And all of a sudden, one day, this police would visit my grandfather's house, about 6'6". And I didn't pay him no mind because I'm out. It's me and my dog, Duke. Mm-hmm. Me and Duke. We everywhere. And I'm throwing rocks. So the next thing I heard was Peaches and Kevin, pack your stuff, we're moving. Well, you know, when you hear those words from an adult, and that adult is your mother, you got to honor that.
Yeah.
Okay? So we moved from Glenarden to a place called Bellhaven Apartments, which was, then it was called George Palmer Highway. So we moved to the apartments, and now I'm getting into organized sports. I knew from my grandfather's nurturing, because I watched him like a hawk. I say, no, sir, thank you, sir, good evening, good morning.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Right.
But I don't know this person, okay? But I did that because that's the way I was taught. So I never really got a chance to get acquainted with him because I was so much into my own life, which was going to school and playing sports. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that was my outlet. And the next thing you know, we were there for a couple of years, and then in 1967 we moved to Sea Pleasant and a home, a Rambler home. And still, I don't know this guy. I just know his title. He's a stepfather. That's all I know. Now, in between all of that, I eventually meet my father. And believe it or not, I meet him at a baseball game. My grandfather's team is playing my father's team. So the Glenarden Braves are playing the Washington Black Sox. So as I'm hustling foul balls and getting the bats from the batters and putting the bats in order, my uncle said, hey, go over there. That's your father. Go over there. He see you coming, just go over there. So I didn't want to leave my job, but I left for a brief moment, went over to the dugout. He shook my hand. I sat down for a little while, and it didn't fit right for me to say, hey, Dad. Mm-hmm. So I called him by his first name, which was Albert. He said, hey, Kevin, how you doing? I said, I'm doing pretty good, but I got to get back to work, you know. And so that's how I met my biological father. So as time went on, we're in this brand new house, and I think I'm in the 7th grade. The next thing I know, my mother asked my stepfather, I got 2 tickets to the cabaret. I want you to go. He said, no, I don't want to go. So my bedroom is kind of like adjacent to theirs. If I lean over and my door's open, I can see part of their bedroom. But my sister's bedroom is to the left. So I'm on the bed counting pennies, and I always kept a bat, always, because my grandfather introduced me to Louisville Sluggers. Yeah. So the bat was in the corner. So I'm counting pennies. He didn't want to go to the cabaret. So the next thing I heard was, "What are you doing? Get off of me!" Now I didn't see him go in the room, but I heard what my sister said. So now he's 6'5", former cop, deacon in the church, and I see, what in the world? So it's like, I got to react. So
if I can intervene for a minute, so your mother has already left.
She gone.
So she done already left and went to the cabaret.
Yeah, with her girlfriend.
We need y'all to pay attention to this.
Right.
Mother left, went to the cabaret. His sister in the room. The stepfather come in the room who's 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah, 6'5".
And how old are you at the time?
6'5", I don't think I was a teenager.
He wasn't even a teenager, but introduced to baseball. Always had a bat. We're gonna let him finish right here.
Okay.
And when I heard my sister utter those words, it was like my heart jumped out and immediately I said, "Do I have time to run in his room to get the 38? Because I know he kept one somewhere, but I just didn't know the location. But I don't have time." So I grabbed my bat. Then when I get in there, I wanted, everything happened so quickly. Do you come down or do you go up? So what I did, he was either he just came off of her, but I came down. And when I came down, it was like I hit a piece of, it was like a tree fell. Boom. and I knocked him out. I can't sit here and tell you how we made it from Seat Pleasant back to Glen Arden, but we did. I can't tell you who picked us up, but we made it back to my grandfather's house.
So you and your sister and the mother's at the cabaret.
She's on the dance floor.
So all of this took place in one night.
One night.
From they having this confrontation, you hitting him because of what he was doing.
Right.
To your sister.
Right.
And then you ended up back at your grandfather's house.
Yeah, with her. And we back in the same living room, the same living room, the furniture, the same furniture that was there in 63. It was the same living room furniture there. I can't even remember the year, but it was right there where my where my grandmother had her wake. We were in a familiar territory.
Right.
So we're sitting on the couch, and I'm the spokesperson. I'm looking at my sister, her knees shaking. And what's wrong with you? So 3 aunts were there. The aunts let us in, 3 of them. My grandfather was asleep, but he heard what was going on. So my grandfather gets halfway down the hall. He want to know who's here. So my aunt said Kevin and Tanya are here, but everything was all right. Well, that was the first untruth. Everything is not all right.
All right,
right?
Yeah.
But they just wanted to get him out the way.
Right.
So I knew that then, and I know it now. So he goes back to bed, and so now a couple of hours later, the police come. The police comes, well, the PG County cop comes with my mother, because she didn't know where we were. Right? Now, the cop comes in, and my aunt says to the cop, he wants a report. She says, "Now, officer, we won't give a report at this moment. We'll take care of it." Well, she told 2 lies in one day. Okay? Now, we go back. I wanted to stay.
So you had to go back.
Yes, we go back to where the incident took place. Now, to be honest, I don't think about it, man. I have, forgive people, and I'll get to that. I really don't know if he inserted it or not. I know I knocked him out with a baseball bat. Okay? So we go back. I said, man, where are we going?
Why didn't your mother know what happened?
She, and it's a story. We get back, you would think that your own mother would talk to us. Well, first, when we get back, he's not there. Okay? So he vanishes. Went back to South Carolina for that weekend. That's where he's from. So his mother and her biological children. Not one time did she interrogate us as to what happened. So now I become rebellious. So he comes back from South Carolina. I overheard a conversation. Did you do that? Well, quite naturally, if she asked me.
He denied it.
Yeah, if you ask me if I robbed a bank, I'm saying, no, Mom, I didn't do it. But that's what he lied. So, but she never questioned us about what took place. Never did. I was waiting, but never did.
Did she stay with him? Did your mother stay?
And what's the age difference between you and your sister?
We 2 years apart.
So it's not like
big sister or younger sister?
She's 2 years older.
Older. Okay, so we want older.
I may have been. I think I may have been 9, so she had to be 11. Or I was 10 and she was 12. I know for a fact I was not a teenager.
Okay, I want you to hold. Don't lose your train of thought, because I want to go somewhere with this for our watchers and viewers. The purpose of Mr. Wilson sharing his story, because he this story is like many people who have experienced this. It starts where?
In the house.
At what age?
Young.
Very young.
Very young.
And we have what we call childhood traumas. So we went now. The reason why I'm making that prevalent right now, because we're talking about then and now.
And then his mother took the stepfather's side and didn't even ask her daughter what happened. So now Mr. Wilson goes into being rebellious because the mother believed the stepfather. He told a lie and said it didn't happen.
Okay, so come on, take us back.
So man, you know, we had to live with this monster. And I came rebellious. And I told my mother, I'm not eating at the table with him. I'm not saying good morning. I'm not saying good evening, whether you like it or not. I'm going to sleep downstairs. I'm going to take my food downstairs. And that's what I did, man. And until, you know, I was the athlete and I was highly recruited by DeMatha for basketball, but that was one of my regrets of not going, and I should have. And so I'm trying to live my dream. My dream is to play these sports and do well in school. And I was an average student, but I was a pretty good athlete. It was God-given talent.
So during this time, as you moving forward, okay, and you having these issues, are there any type of substance abuse going on with you at the young age?
No, it was the substance abuse part didn't start until the 9th grade.
And the only reason why
that's
I asked
still
that,
young.
Yeah,
that's still young.
But that's about 13, 14,
yeah, 14,
15, around
right.
14, 15.
Are y'all listening?
Yeah,
He just said his substance abuse started in the 9th grade. So we really need to bring awareness to our youth with the traumas that are going on in the household and how kids that are traumatized turn into substance abuse.
Yeah.
And something else that in your deliverance of the event, remember, always ask the children what happened.
Ask them their side. Stop trying to take them for the adults.
Right, because we got a lot of individuals who want to overlook the child's perspective of what happened.
Protecting the abuser.
Come on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, come on.
That's correct. And
All right.
I was waiting. I was waiting to sit in the hot seat, you know, with Kevin went, but it never took place. And it never dawned on me back then to approach my mother to say, well, aren't you curious as to what happened? Do you want to know? My mind was on basketball, baseball, football, and that was it.
Were you trying to protect your sister? Is that why you said you didn't go off to college, right?
Yeah, I went up. Yeah, I went to college.
You went off.
Yeah.
Was your sister okay? Did it ever happen again?
Well, I don't know, but at that particular time, I was so engaged into athletics, and I was, you know, a CB student. I was focused on myself, but I'm thinking, we live with a monster.
So because what I want as we move forward, we got some individual out there who's possibly experiencing this today or have experienced it. Now, so during this process of you moving on, going on into school and doing what you're doing and playing the sports and stuff, what is the mental status of your sister from what you can remember? Was she okay? Was she rebellious? Was she doing anything unusual?
You know, Rodney, I can say this. I really don't know because I was focused on me. After that incident happened and my mother didn't do what I thought what a mother should do, I was focused on my life. I would see her. I was active in the sports. And then the next thing you know, I graduate in the 8th grade, and then instead of going to DeMatha, I went to McNamara for a semester, and that's when indirectly I was introduced to barbiturates. Okay, somebody, I left the lunchroom area, 9th grade, left the lunchroom area, go to the bathroom. When I came back, I ate my lunch and drank a soda. Well, later on that night, when I got home, I broke out in a cold sweat and went into my parents' room, and they wanted to ask me, "Well, how you doing in school?" And I said, "I don't like it. I don't like it." And I OD'd right there in their room.
So somebody drugged you?
Yeah.
Somebody drugged you.
Yeah. So they take me to PG Hospital, and the report was, the doctor asked me, he said, "Well, Kevin, do you take drugs?" I said, "No, sir, I don't take drugs." He said, "Well, I don't know how I'm going to tell you this, but I got to let your parents, let your mother know that we found traces of barbiturates in your blood."
Can you explain to what folks barbiturates is?
Barbiturates is a downer, and it's a potent downer. If you take too much of it, you'll OD, and you might not come out of the overdose.
Or it will kind of make you go into a subconscious level where you're not aware of what's going on.
And that's what happened to me.
Okay.
Momentarily.
So somebody must have been jealous of you.
Well, you know, in these private schools, you got different nationalities.
So that's what I wanted to ask you, because I was aware when you talk about the timeline, because I was born in 1960.
Okay.
So when you said 67 at one point, right?
Yeah,
You was talking about some of what was going on in your life.
Right.
Okay. So in 1967, 68 is when we really started integrating in schools. So this was a process of you just going into an integrated school?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the possibility,
So it was a possibility.
it was-
Somebody was jealous.
yeah.
And this was private.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
wouldn't think, quote unquote, private school, this is happening. Well, yeah, I that was my introduction to a downer.
Right. So at
Did
this
you
point
become
now,
addicted?
Not at that moment. I survived that, and that's when I transferred from McNamara to Walker Mill Junior High. And that was a brand new junior high school. We were the first ones to go there in 70, 72, 71, 72. And now, I'm not playing sports anymore, because I'm drinking at home because my mother's a functional alcoholic.
okay.
So you were alcoholic in high school?
No.
You're now, but because of the exposure,
Uh-huh.
you're familiar with the alcoholism activities.
Yeah, because it was in the family.
Right.
Okay.
Christmas and Thanksgiving, everybody been in their elbow, and
Right.
we sitting there watching, they laughing. So I'm saying, what is this all about? Well, I saw it.
Well, if I can interact in this, I want to bring something to our guests as they listen. When you're talking about childhood traumas and things that happen, many years ago, I picked up cigarette smoking because my mother and father used to smoke cigarettes.
I did
So
too.
Right. So I just wanted to talk about that. This is not about me. This is your story. But the reason why I brought that up is because some of the traits that you start to pick up is what you see in the home.
That's right.
What you see the parents doing as a child.
That's right.
Come on. Go ahead.
And I thought that was normal. I thought that was a normal way of living because most of the family members engaged.
Right.
So now I'm in public school and I'm seeing guys dressed like you, and I'm saying, wait a minute, you got on what are these shoes he got on? I found out the alligators and lizards, and so now I'm trying to be socially accepted because I'm coming from a Catholic school perspective, white shirt and tie. Now public school is totally different. It's like a fashion show. So I had to switch gears real quick. Now I want to fit in, so I got to go out and take stuff, so I can, because I don't have a job, so I got to go out and do this and do that, so I can get my gators and my lizards and my slacks, and so that's what I did. But that's when I was also introduced to marijuana. So, the alcohol was first, the downer was indirect, and then the marijuana. I'm experimenting with one of the gateway drugs.
So now, the reason why I keep interjecting, because I want to have these as some flag points for us. We talking about then and that's relevant to what's happening now in this day and time.
Mm-hmm.
Because how are these young kids becoming exposed to the drugs and narcotics and things of this day and time?
Well, first it's people watching people,
right?
So they think it's acceptable. So just like you experience home a uncle that's drinking, that's your favorite uncle, so you want to normalize doing the same thing as your uncle, so you want to try it, but then it becomes I know why my uncle like it, and then you get in that habit, so now it becomes a trait for you.
And then with that, getting into trying to fit in, you start to engage with the drug activity.
Yeah, my buddy, well, he still is a buddy, and he's still alive today. We're experimenting. I'm rebellious. I'm drinking at home, because we got a bar downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to school halfway. Sports are no longer in my life, and but I'm going through a phase, and so, I'm trying to keep up my wardrobe so I can be socially accepted. And I'm a shy person. If it's a conversation, a topic that intrigues me, I'm gonna get involved. But if not, I'll sit back and just listen. You won't even think I'm there. So my buddy introduced me to go-go music. So we found out about Chuck Brown very early, and so the ritual was go to school, hook school, drink, smoke marijuana, and on Fridays go to the Friday night go-go in Palmer Park, Maryland, which was a club called the Squad. And that was our church, and so we would go out and take, steal, rob, whatever, so we could look sharp on Friday. And that was a routine, man. That was a routine until I was sent away in the 10th grade, thinking that was a remedy. So they shipped me to North Carolina to a prep school called Laurinburg Prep. And I go there for a year, and it was a school consisted of troubled youth. And it was populated mostly by guys from New York and Philadelphia. And again, I'm just going through a phase. I'm not really studying, no sports. I can't wait to get back to Maryland. But at this time, I don't consider myself an addict at all. I'm far from thinking that I'm an addict. Mm-hmm. Okay? But when I go to Central High School in the 11th grade year, now I easily get back into athletics. And I played on the JV team. We had a good JV team. We were 16-0. We should have been 17-0. But I am a experimental user of alcohol, marijuana at that point.
Okay. At this point, is your mother aware that you're indulging in this activity?
If she was aware,
she didn't say anything.
She didn't say a mumbling word.
Okay, now again for our guests who may be just getting in, our guest today is Mr. Kelvin Wilson. His story leads to a book. We want y'all to know that was his purpose to come, and because he got a book that's going to be coming out, and it's going to probably include all this information, right?
Parts of it, yeah.
Parts of it.
And it's called The Turning Point.
Now the other thing that is imperative that I want to make sure that is important, because when people listen to our guests, I want them to get something from it that's going to open up their minds and have them to start paying attention to their surroundings and things that's going on. Several things that you talked about that was very, very important. And reason why I'm bringing this, because we have a problem with our youth today.
Yeah, we do.
One of them is that you talked about that your mom left y'all with an individual who was her friend, her relationship, and not biologically connected by you. Also, y'all was exposed to seeing drinking and things of that nature at a young age. As you move forward, not knowing really what happened with your sister, but you know something happened, at this point, it was not acknowledged nor confronted. So this causes you to become a rebellious child. Some people out there watch the patterns. We want to know why our children are running buck wild.
Yeah.
A lot of this applies to what's going on today.
It do.
Go ahead.
And I was going to ask to chime into that. So pretty much your rebellion is you were screaming out for help, attention. I need help. Like I'm going through something. Did you feel like you wanted someone to intervene to show you love? So I guess it's like you're always missing that piece, that love piece. No one's showing me affection. No one's showing me attention. So I'm going to rebel. This is my way of getting that attention. Did you feel like that?
You know, as I think back, I tell you, it was, at that time, it was nowhere to turn.
Yeah.
Because,
okay. Oh, man.
Because who can I go to in the family? You got 3 aunts in denial.
Yeah.
Your mother is in denial. Now, if you go to the uncle that you really respect, who's a drunk, he may not believe it. So, and I don't know where my father lived. So where am I going? Mm-hmm. So I thought the answer. Notice I said I thought. Mm-hmm. The answer was in the bottle or the weed. So that was my escape.
That's always we use something to suppress the pain that we go on.
But I was hurting inside.
Yeah.
I was hurting big time.
Okay.
So what you was actually looking for somebody to be able to acknowledge that you had an issue and to be able to step in and say, yo, hey, Kevin, I'm here. I got you. I see your pain. I see your struggles. So, you know, because we're going to be coming up on, we're going to be running out of time shortly, so I'm trying to escalate this a little bit. What I would like for you to do, you said that you ended up getting sent off to the school. When did you really start to really know that you had a serious drug problem or an issue that needed to be addressed?
1986. I graduated from college in 81. Baseball was over. 2 college degrees. Still don't think I'm an addict. But when I OD'd in 1986 of August, I said something's wrong here.
So you OD'd off what?
Heroin.
Ooh, so how did you get to the heroin piece? Well, we skipped the whole section.
Well, it went from experimenting, recreational, habitual, and then I was addicted. So, 86, it was, I'm telling myself, hey man, I got a habit, but how do I get rid of it? You know, but where can I go? So, overdose, 2 guys were there, they revived me, brought me back, and the next thing I knew was I got to go to treatment.
That was like when was the turning point?
So the turning point was in 88. I was faking from 86 to 88 going to treatment centers because I had a good government job. But my addiction was telling me you don't have to use on the days that you work. Use on the days that you don't go to work. So that was my pattern. And so that pattern was being observed by my supervisors. But again, I'm in denial. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not an addict, man. I don't have a problem. They showing me my problem, but I'm telling I don't have a problem. So finally, in 88, I was chased. I was told to stop by a well-known cop called Bigfoot. When he said halt, my mind said go. Because I had just got finished speedballing, and that is heroin and cocaine mixed. And who wants to go to DC jail under that type of feeling? I didn't. So when he shot the gun in the air, he put the gun in the air and said halt, I took off. So I'm running. I'm running like I'm in a marathon. And I'm running because I can't go to jail. And so I ended up in a hole down there by St. Luke's Church. It was a foundation where 3 houses were going to be built. So I got in the hole. and I heard the cop go to the house that I ran through. She says, Miss, I want you to go in the back to see if a young man is back there because we don't know if he's armed or not. And let us know if he's back there. Would you mind? So that lady came all the way back in her backyard, and she looked at me just like I'm looking at you. And however God touched her, mercy was given. She went back to the front door. She said, ma'am, I don't know who you're talking about. I think he kept on running. Now, God allowed me to hear that entire dialogue. So after that, that was the turning point, man. When it came nighttime, I went back to my buddy's house where we used to use that, and I said, Duck, I'm done. I got on my knees, I said a prayer, and 87, I went to a program that really wasn't tailor-made for me. I went back to the lady's house I was staying with, and then in 89, I got into the Salvation Army, and it took 5 Mondays to get in. And I don't know if this was a test from God or whoever. I didn't care who was testing me. When they told me, we don't have a bed space, come back the next Monday, I was going to my meetings. I came back the next Monday. On that 5th Monday, God opened the door. At the age of 32, I was the youngest one in my dorm. And I listened to the penitentiary stories, and you know, my buddy said, you know, that's a not yet for you. But if you get cute and don't learn how to be humble, you know, you could go to the penitentiary. You can go to the penitentiary sober. I never forgot that.
Did you ever go to the penitentiary?
No.
Okay, so with also reason when again I'm interjecting on different levels because I want somebody out there who may be possibly going through these situations to look at the trigger points, look at the flags that's going to be able to identify what maybe your child is going through, what your child is experiencing. We want to make sure that they hear his story because your story is not no different from many other people who have experienced that and also who may be experiencing it right now.
Exactly, because a lot of people are in denial, especially with addictions. You're only thinking about the addiction and trying to suppress the hurt and pain. So I hope you're definitely listening to Mr. Wilson and his testimony. I have a quick question for you. Well, I want to say I admire you because when I talk to a lot of older brothers, they're in denial about a lot of the traumas that they went through, and it's almost like they use these normalized behaviors, like, you know, to make excuses. And I like how you're not making excuses and you're accepting all of your traumas. It really shows that, you know, you can heal. But not only that, I hope a lot of my older brothers are looking at Mr. Wilson and his testimony. You don't have to hold on to your traumas. You can release them. We don't have to normalize stuff.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And thank you for Demetrius for sharing that. And we got to know this, that it's individuals like you, sir, that are actually giving us some kind of platform to look at young people and figure out what leads them to these different areas. And as young people, a lot of times we already know where do 90% of everything start? Where do it start? Right at home.
At home.
So we talking about a little boy did a couple of weeks ago, or not even a week or so ago. Little boy, 6 years old, took a gun, went in and shot the teacher. We got young guys that's running around here with gun activities and coming out of homes where supposedly it's supposed to be okay, but they're using drugs. They're running around smoking marijuana like it's nothing. They're taking these Percocets and these type of pills and things of that nature. And the parents are talking about, I don't know why they're doing it.
Well, a lot of it starts from home, and I mean, like I said, everyone's listening to Mr. Wilson. A lot of his trauma started real early, and it started from him. The biggest one is protecting his sister, and because his sister didn't get the care that she needed, it caused, and mom didn't believe the sister, it caused him to self-consciously think about himself and the traumas that he was going through sports and activities in school. And then somebody tried to sabotage you and put a drug in your drink, and you OD'd on it. and then it creates these bigger addictions because we don't deal with our childhood traumas, and our traumas lead into all these different kind of episodes. So drug addictions, like I said, it could be prostitution, it could be a variety of so many things. So like anyone, even like Miss Wood, you can't judge him because you don't know the traumas that he went through as a child. But until he identifies the traumas that he's going through, that is his beginning journey to healing. So
and then the other thing that I like that you said too, you also said that who was I going to turn to?
Exactly.
Which is important. We have to make it so that the young people have someone to turn to. Mr. Wilson, your book is going to be phenomenal. Kind of let's talk about that real quick because we getting down to the wire. We probably got about 10 more minutes. I want to talk about what is the purpose of this book that you got coming out.
Well, the purpose of the book, Rodney, is this. God gave me a gift, number one, and that is to write. I was always excited about words and spelling tests at a young age of writing journals. And, you know, it's a gift, and I want to put my gift out there and to tell my story. And, I had a counselor that told me, you're not responsible for your addiction.
Absolutely.
You're responsible for your recovery. I said, what are you talking about?
My goodness.
That's powerful.
You got to say that again.
She says, Kevin, you're not responsible for your addiction. You are responsible for your recovery. So I said, but what do you mean? She says, did your father drink? Yes. Did your mother drink? Yes. She says, well, you don't know when you were in your mother's womb, she was probably feeding you alcohol at that time, and it's just a matter of time for when you're born for you to take your first drink. So you were genetically addicted.
Yes.
Okay, so moving forward, man, I went to the Salvation Army for 21 months. I met this journalist who's in recovery like me. He gave me the idea. He said, what are you doing, man? I said, man, they gave me a promotion on the job. I'm a security guard at night, so when the guys go to sleep, I don't have nothing to do. He says, yes, you do. He said, start writing. You went to school for journalism. Start writing. I said, what am I going to write about? He said, man, interview some of those cats in there. They're intelligent. And write about how you feel every day. He says, I guarantee you, if you stay there for X amount of months and you write 2 or 3 pages a night, when you leave there, you'll have a manuscript. And his idea was executed. So that's how the turning point came about. And then when I got out, I had to focus on my grandfather because my family was all in chaos over his money, and my mother was the power of attorney. So I had to step in. I had to go back to the family that drinks, but it didn't faze me because when you make up your mind to surrender,
come on, man,
it's all over.
I hope y'all listening to that.
You
make up your mind.
You make up your mind to stop. Nothing is going to distract you, trigger you. It's over.
You surrender.
So what that is, that's coming to a point where you start to love yourself.
That's right.
That's a point where you come to you look at the man in the mirror or the woman, and you put yourself in a position that you become where you are no longer lying to yourself, and you are facing the childhood traumas.
And whatever big that. So what we saying is, take a mirror, look at yourself in the mirror, and see what's on the other side of your mirror, and accept that reflection, and stop being in denial about it.
And you know that book, what you're talking about, and you know it's got to be a part 2 to this interview.
Yeah,
it's going to have to be a part 2, because I mean we get ready to run out of time. But reason why I want people to understand when they come onto the podcast and they see individuals like yourself. Our purpose is not to just get on here to talk. We have an agenda. We are trying to help people. It's individuals like you, sir. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for sharing that, because what you talked about is a process that many kids are dealing with today.
Exactly.
And Demetria, as we talk about on many occasions, we talk about childhood traumas.
Yes.
We're talking about where does it start?
From childhood. So I always tell people, when you're going through something, go all the way back to your childhood. that is where you will identify your biggest issue at, because you've moved on in adulthood denying your childhood. So you gotta face your childhood.
And what you do coming into as you explained that, you talked about what you experienced as a child. I'm talking about even from the fact that your grandfather was the one that introduced you to baseball. So think about that.
Saved your sister life.
No, but not only just that. We're talking about why are kids having problems. You know on the news a few days ago they were showing a little baby boy who about 2 or 3 years old was playing in the upper echelon of the apartment hallway with a 9mm gun. So obviously somebody saw it and they called the police. The police went there, ended up arresting the father. Now, but I'm trying to make a point. Why was that baby playing with the gun?
Because the dad probably was allowing that baby.
Because also the baby saw the dad had it.
Yeah, or pulled it.
Or something.
But some people are really doing this crazy stuff, showing their little kids how to. It's crazy.
But our purpose is this. Here where you are, you started to see these things at a young age, and then you went from one level of trauma to another.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you get to a point where you become an addict.
It was no more laughter. You know, it became, everything was, you know, I don't care who or what. If I needed my habit to continue.
Yeah.
You know, and nothing was funny anymore. You know, and you know, I had to have it. But in '89, man, that was
it's a mind thing.
that was the turning point. And see, I've always connected to the fellowships, but I was in and out. You know, but this time when that cop, you know, and believe it or not, I was faced with 40 years, but when I went to court facing 15 years, but I was innocent. The judge put it on the step docket. Said, if you bring back any more trouble to me in the 3-year period, you're going to do the time that you bring back and what's on the step docket. He ended up almost being the person to write the foreword of my book, but he passed. But I was the first one in his life, ever. He was the chief judge in Upper Marlboro, William, Missouri. He said I was the first one to send him a gratitude note to tell him thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, and he
That's
invited me
deep.
back.
Yeah.
And believe this or not, man, it's true. By being around spiritual-minded people, you know, God says forgive. So one day, my stepfather, I was taking care of my grandfather. He comes to my grandfather's house with some roughness, which was really shocking, you know. But he wanted to talk to me in his truck. I didn't know what for, but I got on the opposite side, and he says, "Hey man, I just want to let you know you're doing a good thing for your grandfather, and I just want to let you know that I am sorry for what I did. I haven't always been a good person. Do you forgive me?" So right then and there, the church and the fellowship kicked in. You know, people got to forgive me.
Yeah.
So right then and there, I forgave a child molester.
Oh man, I love that.
I forgave him.
And it's important to forgive.
And I meant that.
Yeah.
Right? So he says, well, before you go back in, why did you do what you did to me? I said, because I had a habit. Do you forgive me? And he says, yes. So I said, are we done here?
But what did you do to him?
I stole from him. You know, I had to steal to keep my habit going.
Right. Okay.
Did he ever tell you if he was molested?
If he was molested?
Yeah.
No, he never shared it.
He never shared
Yeah.
it.
But he did apologize for what he did.
Yeah.
So he did something.
He acknowledged it.
Right.
Yeah.
He acknowledged.
And he was teary-eyed.
Yeah,
Okay.
he acknowledged it.
So here we go. We get around to the last 3 or 4 minutes. Mr. Wilson, this is your opportunity to really talk to the guests. I want you to send a message to some parents out there who may be struggling with their children right now, or doing things around their children. What would be your message to some of them right now?
My message would be, before you want to get married to someone, you got to be like an FBI agent and investigate your potential soulmate. Okay, because you know this quick move, trying to be loved. You don't know the person, and then your kids don't know the person, and anything can erupt. Just like in my own household. But I would say be careful in who you select as your soulmate. You got to incorporate God. And kids, you don't have to be a follower. You can be a leader. Have people to follow you. Because I was once a leader, then I converted into a follower, and I almost died. So hey, drugs is here for a purpose, and it's not to help no relationship. It's to sabotage relationships, and that's it, man.
Well, can I say one thing? Can you give one thing advice on how to avoid, or what parents should look out in the behaviors of their child, so parents are starting to believe their kids a little bit more? Because your sister was silent, so just one advice, just to give to the audience.
You got to communicate. That's number one. I know families that have family meetings every Friday. Every Friday, there's a family meeting. Everybody gets together. But my family was just the opposite. They'll slide a situation under the rug to portray to the public something that they're not, because of my last name. But they don't know, the outside really don't know what's going on the inside, but the people that live there, such as myself.
Family secrets.
And you can't judge a book by its cover. Got to
man, I love that.
Got to come on in.
You can't judge a book by its cover. I tell you, man, it was an honor to have you here as a guest with us. We really, really, really appreciate you taking the opportunity to come on and be with us. That's got to be a part 2. I guess I was the co-host today because Miss Demetria was running the show.
He just kicked me off. Thank you for tuning in to People to People. We will be back on Friday, and then again on Monday, and then again on Wednesday. So you keep tuning in at 7 p.m. with People to People with Rodney Grimes.
Oh, and we want to do a shout out. Tell them about tomorrow. We got Pretty in Peace, Not in Pieces.
Yes, make sure you tune in tomorrow.
7 o'clock. They're going to be in the house. And you know how we do. And we just want to say thank you, Mr. Wilson, man. I appreciate you so much, bro. That was That's all right, man. I tell you, just your story is important. Very important. And that was a good opportunity for you to come out and really be able to share with us, what happened. And hopefully we be a blessing for some other people.
Yeah, that's the drive, to help somebody else.
I love it.
That's it, to help somebody else. And